It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here from the BEA beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com here in Phoenix, Arizona, IA. Now, tomorrow, we're going to have Stuart Rhodes is coming on. He's going to be speaking at the nullification event here at the Phoenix downtown Sheraton. And I got to point out that Sheraton was subsidized and financed by the city of Phoenix, building hotels. I just, oh, man, where does it stop? Well, they're going to have the event down there, and it's going to include a lot of great speakers, Thomas Woods, Charles Goyette, Stuart Rhodes, and we got Sheriff Richard Mack on, so this is going to be a very interesting thing now. And I told the sheriff, hold on just a second here, because I want to read these 3 paragraphs from this one. It just goes right to where, we're going. I mean, all of this doesn't matter, let's go ahead and talk about if. Here we go. Not only have governments from China to the United States committed themselves to a chess game meant to eke out relative advantages on a sinking ship, but they have positively rewarded those who are speeding the collapse. A simple, cannibalistic economic rule now persists until a new system emerges. Economic manipulation, destruction, and extortion are simply more profitable, far more profitable than good old-fashioned value creation. Disaster capitalism will be pursued full force. Whether a country is communist or capitalist, authoritarian or marginally democratic, no longer matters. Citizens globally have been made to be the pawns and patsies of a universal financial Ponzi scheme that can only end in carnage. Who cares if this ensures debt peonage for the world and likely mass austerity, suffering, and shortages? There's a buck to be made. Who cares if my own children will be choking on the garbage I spewed into the financial air and water system? I'm rich. When morality, reason, and sovereignty collapse together, we are left with outright anarchy in everything but name. This is a reality so uncomfortable that hundreds of trillions of dollars more of citizen retirement savings and other assets are likely to be tragically liquidated trying to regain stability and finance the lean times in the hopes of the promised upturn. Now, let me tell you what this means. It's done. It's over. Here it comes. What they're going to do is they're going to keep financing the future, the promise on the kids' backs, on children yet born, on the promise that we're going to pay it off later. When things get better later. All this spending and debt that we had now, well, we just need a little bit more spending than debt, and then things will, start to, come back, and we'll be all good, and we'll pay it off later. When has that ever happened? They just keep pushing it down further. They get another 5, another 10 years, another election cycle. It keeps building to the point that you cannot get enough income in to pay the interest. When that happens, you're done. It's done. 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 It's so freaking done. And all this deck chair arranging on the Titanic, all this other stuff that's going on is just a waste of time. We are already in an anarchy that is, it's a chaos. Heck, even anarchy self-orders. We're in this, you can't predict anything because there's people that have the power of the levers and the rings of power that keep changing the rules all the time. And the rules are what? Bad guys keep getting bailed out. Poor people has got to pay for it. This is, so you think we're under some kind of rule? Well, here comes the nullification event. We have Sheriff Richard Mack on, good friend, known each other a long time. We've been activists together for, coming up to almost 20 years. And I'm telling you, he's been through it too. And my concern is this. If we are going to trade one leader, one guy that happens to, pulled the Excalibur from the rock and say, no, not you. We got another anointed guy over here that's going to represent me. What have we gained? What's and the difference is what? How are we going to prevent the exact same thing from happening to us again? Whether it's a communist government, capital, whatever the heck they want to call it. I vote a nonist. And if I don't have the option of voting none of the above, then what kind of option was it? I get to vote how I'm going to be ruled, not that I don't want to be ruled. Sheriff Mack, give me what for, man.
Well, Ernie, you know darn well I cannot disagree with that. The point, I believe, of state nullification is the same that's expressed in my lawsuit and the same example of me suing the federal government in the first place. I have learned that I should have never have sued. In all my studies and even reading the case and studying state sovereignty and the responsibilities of local governments and local officials, is our duty to tell the federal government and the state government, you will not come in here and abuse the rights of our citizens. You will not. IRS is the easiest one to pick on, and you and I have picked on the IRS for a number of years, but they're easy. They're an easy target because they're such a mafioso Gestapo organization. It therefore becomes the responsibility, because of the principles of state nullification, it becomes the responsibility of each individual in government at the local level to protect the rights of the citizen. Now, let me ask you this question. In the very first page of my book, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope, and by the way, the reason I should not have filed against the Clinton administration on the Brady bills, I should have just said no. And I should have got a bunch of other sheriffs to stand up and do that with me. At the time, there was no other sheriff in Arizona who wanted to join with me. Not one, not anybody. Sheriff Dupnick was there at the time. Of course, that's a joke. Sheriff Arpaio patted me on the back, said he wouldn't be joining. Nobody joined. Even the ones that were more vociferous in their dislike of the Brady bill, none of them wanted to join a lawsuit or a movement to stop it. They all acquiesced, and that's just the typical problem with government across our country. Everybody thinks you have to go along. Well, I'm here to tell you that is the biggest crock of crap there ever was. We do not have to go along. The federal government is not our boss. The state government is not our boss. Freedom is our boss, and that is what we have to uphold and defend. Freedom has got to be what we're after in law enforcement, in the executive branch, and that's law enforcement, judicial branch, and the legislative branch. When the judges and the legislators no longer support freedom, then the executive branch or local officials or even the people must oppose it. But the question I have for you, Ernie, is the same question posed by Thomas Jefferson on the very first page of my book. When all government shall be drawn to Washington or Phoenix as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided and become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated. My question is, to whom can the poor little guy turn to for peace, safety, and protection and freedom when government becomes venal and oppressive?
That will have to wait until after the break. But I am certain I can think of something to say, and I'll be right back with it in answer to Sheriff Mack's query. You know, when the little guy has nowhere to turn for defense of his individual rights, what happens? We're going to talk about it when we come back here on Declare Your Independence in just a little bit. I bet it has something to do with declaring your independence. We'll be right back.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.